Alright guys, so this is another Patreon request, and this one comes from Bill McLaughlin, who asked me to do a Patreon request, a Stormhawks based Patreon request. It's been a hot minute since I've done anything Stormhawks. And it's been a while, actually, now that I think about it. But as always, if you'd like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can send me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, let's get started with this video, Stormhawks Tribe Wars. So Stormhawks Tribe Wars, the story is actually more Raptor-centric. It is more it's like if Stormhawks was a comic, this would be like an event. This would be like a big event story. So Stormhawks Tribe Wars, what's it about? It's like I said, it's more Raptor-centric, and essentially the story begins on Bo-Katan, and Repton is having a meeting with the other raptor tribes. It turns out that yes, there are other species of raptors throughout. Bo-Katan may be home to the best known raptors, but there are other raptors throughout Atmos. Like, there are thousands of Terras, and on those Terras are other tribes of raptors who evolved differently. We have the more tropical species of raptors. They look more like the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park. These guys actually have venom. They're skinnier, but they have frills, and they actually have weapons that are more poison based. And like I said, they're not as big and strong as the Bo-Katan raptors, but they're faster. They're more nimble. They use the trees and live in the treetops. They have, like I said, the Dilo frills, and like I said, they got all their weapons are poison based. Then we have a more ground species, which is more like these guys are more like skinks or like cave lizards, where they live in underground caves. They're very pale, and they're more like mystics. These guys are more like a mystic tribe who do like they deal with lore and druidic magic. That's the things they play. That's the things they do. Another tribe is a desert nomadic tribe, which look more like thorny devils. They have thorny bodies, but they're big and hulking, and they got like spiked weapons and clubs. As for others, there's also a tribe of raptors who are more feathered. Like, they're actually like like prehistoric raptors, where they're more bird-like. They live in a more forest area, and these guys are more evolved. Like, they kind of think they're a little more snottier to the other raptors, but they do have the weapons to back it up. So Repton, and there's also another tribe, which is based off of legless lizards, where they only have hands and they have a serpent-like body. So those are all the tribes, and so essentially once every year, all the tribes get together to kind of just keep tabs on each other, and all the tribe leaders go to meet Repton, who he is the king of the raptors. It's not just of Bo-Katan, but he is the king of all raptors. And what goes on is that all the tribe leaders come together to pay reverence to Repton, and Repton more or less hears grievances, he hears disputes, he hears all these matters that the king, as the king, he has to hear. So Repton is he's talking to all of them, and it's very clear that Repton has not been liked among the other raptors. Like, the other raptors aren't really paying him a lot of respect, because of, and he even points out why is this suddenly, you guys never had a problem with me before as your king. I had you all reveled in the idea when I took the throne. Why am I so stigmatized among you now? And they damn well know why. You joined the Cyclonians. And he's like, no, Bo-Katan joined the Cyclonians. None of you did. And through my protection, I've kept all of your Terras safe from Cyclonia. And they're like, no, we could have fought Cyclonia together. A united army, all the tribes under your banner. We could have fought them and won. Don't you, yeah. And Repton's like, no, even as I thought, if I knew 100% that the whole tribe could go to war as a united front, don't you think I would have taken that shot? Like, don't you think for a second I would have done this? Like, don't you think I would have done this from the beginning and and fought this war right from the get-go? Like, he points out, like, yeah, don't you think I would have done this sooner? But so all the tribe members just leave that night. Like, they're all Repton points out that, like, regardless of how you feel, I'm still your king, so deal with it. So I'm keeping, you should all be thanking me for keeping you safe from this and doing all the dirty work and keeping Cyclonus from taking your children, your sons, and your men from your tribes and making them into shock troopers. My brothers and I are doing all the goddamn dirty work. So I don't know why why you have all your tails up your asses, but get the fuck over it. So they leave that night, and Repton returns to his home that night. He's just ready to go. He's just ready to sleep on it. But before he does, he has a conversation with Spitz, and Spitz is like, "Don't you think we should listen to them?" And he is like, Spitz brings up, like, maybe we could have, if we were a united front, all the tribes together, we could fight the Cyclonians. And then he's like, and fight the Sky Knights while we're at it too. We couldn't win a fight with the Cyclonians, let alone we couldn't win a fight with the Cyclonians and the Atmosians. A war between we could maybe fight a war. Win it? No. And it would be even less of a chance if we fought the Sky Knights and Cyclonia. We'd be fighting a war on two fronts, and neither front would win. So Repton departs. And Spitz tries to egg him on a little more and try to put it more. And Repton's like, no, conversation over. Don't talk about it anymore. So Repton goes into his bed. Goes to his bed chamber to sleep it off, and a bomb goes off. Repton survives, but he's found wounded, and the bomb. Spitz, Horik, and Lugi. Horik is already convinced it's one of the, someone from the tribe, one of the tribes, who didn't like what Repton had to say, and Repton's in agreement. Spitz is like, I don't know, this seems a little, don't you think this feels a little coincident, a little bit coincidental? And Repton's like, no, bring them all back. So he goes down there. The tribe leaders are all like, none of us are going to fess up because none of us did this. It was obviously an assassination attempt from Cyclonia. And Repton is like, do you really think Cyclonia would try to kill me? And they're like, yeah, maybe they found you wanting and just decided no longer needed an alliance. And from there, it just kind of escalates more and more until the tribes all start pointing fingers at each other, and eventually all the tribes declare war on each other, and Repton is now finding himself in a civil war. So every tribe of raptors, every kind of tribe of raptors, are now locked in a war, in a civil war for the throne that is spanning all over Atmos. And it's tearing apart entire terras. Some raptors are going out to conquer, more land. Others are fighting their own, fighting other tribes for their territory. Others are attacking Cyclonian and Atmosian territories and claiming theirs. And Repton is trying desperately to keep to keep everything under his heel, while Cyclonia actually backs Bogotan in to help putting these tribes in line. Meanwhile, there are other tribes who are going to Atmosia to make alliances. It's just one giant shit show. It is just one humongous shit show that is spiraling out of control on every level. It's not looking pretty. So among all this, Starling has snuck onto Bogotan, not to kill Repton, but to actually give him counsel. And he's when he finds her in his now he's staying in his own bed, in a different bed chamber because his got blown up. He finds Starling there, and he's like, beloved, I was not expecting you. Yeah. So it turns out Repton and Starling have been having a relationship on the down low in this story. And she's like, you didn't call me when you should have called me from the beginning, and now you're throwing in deeper with the Cyclonians. I thought you were going to back out of, allying with them, and and he's like, it's not that simple. I gotta look out for my people, and now I have a civil war to, look into. And she's like, correction, you have a war to fight. I have a civil war to untangle. So Starling goes out, and she actually takes Repton's brothers with her to investigate what had really happened. And what really happened was really fucky. Because it turns out it wasn't the Cyclonians or any of the tribes who planted that bomb to try to kill Repton. Turns out it was someone from Atmosia. It was it was the Sky Council who had an assassin plant a bomb to try to kill Repton, because even they were afraid of the idea of the tribes, uniting and fighting a war. Even though Repton was like, that's not going to happen. They were afraid of the idea of fighting, if Repton could unite the tribes and not go into a war with both, but more like go to war and unite the armies and help Cyclonia. So what they wanted to do was disassemble power from try to kill Repton, but if they couldn't, the least they could do is throw him into make it look like it was his own tribe that did this. And yeah, needless to say, option 1 didn't work, but option 2 worked. So Starling is just incensed at the idea that her own people did this to someone, and Repton finds out, and he actually puts the information out into the world, and the tribes all have to are now like, if when they find out, and they did find out, they are all going to unite against the Atmosians. But unfortunately, while everyone did find out, the tribe leaders all came to the consensus that this was a war that should have been done sooner. And what happens is that the tribes are all left to self-govern. Like, they come to the conclusion that no one's, we'll be our own leaders, and Repton will be only the king of Bo-Katan. So by the end of it, Repton is only the king of Bo-Katan, and all the tribes become self-governed. So there you go, guys. There's my Stormhawks Patreon request. Once again, I'd like to thank Bill McLaughlin for this story. Let me know let me know what you think in the comments below. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.